Hey everybody, welcome to Home Recording Made Easy and Mix Tip Tuesday, where every Tuesday I show you a new mixing tip to help you make more professional sounding mixes in your home studio. Before we get to this week's tip, if you're new here, please consider subscribing. Make sure you hit that notification bell and also stick around to the end of the video, because at the end of the video I have something I want to give you absolutely free that's really going to help you with your mixing training, so be sure to stick around. Okay, everybody, welcome. So this week on Mix Tip Tuesday, we're going to talk about a couple of ways that you can clean up some of the muddiness in your mix. And specifically, I want to talk about the basics of cleaning your tracks before you start mixing. So this is something that'll help. I get a lot of mixes that are submitted to me on a monthly basis. A lot of them from my mixing membership website, mixingmadeeasy.net, which we'll talk about a little later. And just folks that buy my training courses and they mix a song and they want to send it to me, they want me to listen. And a lot of times, there's a couple of things that stand out right away. A lot of folks overdo it with the reverb big time, where it just sounds completely unnatural. And the second thing that I hear a lot of is a lot of muddiness in the mix. And a lot of that has to do with managing the mid-range, which we talked about in another Mix Tip Tuesday episode. But what we didn't talk about, part of that episode, which can contribute to the muddiness of the mix or the lack of clarity, is having tracks that you don't prepare and clean before you start mixing. So let me just show you what I mean. Here is a session that I just imported the audio. There's no plugins, no nothing. Haven't done a static mix, haven't done anything. Just lowered the fader so it wasn't, blasting everybody out of their seats to make sure we weren't getting killed. Now this happens to be a live recording in a live performance scenario in a club. A band doing a cover of the track Soul Man, which I'm not going to play back too much of because I don't want to get copyright strikes, but you know the track, right? We'll play a little bit at the beginning here. Okay, you got it. Okay. And so this will also pertain to studio recordings, but this will pertain more, it'll be more obvious in a live recording setting. So I wanted to show it to you here. So there are two areas that I want you to focus on. We talk about getting rid of the muddiness in the mix. The first is on, if you have drums, like this one does, live drums, on your tom tracks, your tom-tom tracks, where we have a lot of mic bleed. And between the tom hits, all the mic bleed. Now, when you first look at this session, when you import it, if you didn't think about this, you look at this and you go, oh, okay, I don't really see, let me make this a little bit bigger here. Here's our tom tracks here, tom 1 and floor tom. There's some hits in here, but I don't see any real bleed. There's not a lot of audio going on there. What I want you to do is I want you to come over in your DAW and I want you to zoom in on the audio waveform. Okay, Studio One, you do it down here in the right-hand corner, but every DAW will be a little bit different. And now if we were to take a look at, let's say, this floor tom, or let's do tom 1. We can see tom 1 here, how there is an enormous amount of bleed between the spikes where he actually hits the tom. Let me lower this just a little bit so it's a little more obvious. There we go. So you can see where he's hitting the toms here throughout the performance. I'll solo this up. Okay. But let's listen to what happens between those hits. All that bleed. Now it's running around a negative 15 or so dB on the meter. You can hear all that bleed, all that ringing, all that overtone, that resonance from those toms. Okay, so what I encourage you to do is one of two things. You can use a gate, so you can set the gate up so it only opens when the tom is hit and then it closes, so it mutes all that stuff in between. Or what I like to do more times than not, because I'm not a huge fan of gates, although there's a couple of plugins that'll do a decent job, is I like to just start from the beginning of the song. Okay? And I want to make sure you got to listen to the song, because it's not always obvious where they hit the tom. There may be some times where they kind of hit it and they mishit it. And you don't want to get rid of those particular tom hits. Okay, so all of this nonsense in the beginning, bleed. Here comes a tom hit right here. Okay, I want to go through with either my range tool or my blade tool, whatever you prefer to use. And I want to cut everything before that tom hit and delete it. Okay, now the thing you want to be careful of is after the tom is hit, you want to let it ring out. Before that next snare hit, I like to go through and make another cut here. And then go up to the next tom hit. Now you can see right here. So here's a good example where he hit the tom, but he didn't hit it as hard as where he didn't strike it as hard. So you want to be careful you don't mistake that for a snare hit. It is a tom hit. So this is why you got to go through, you got to kind of listen to the song. So I go through, cut into sections, and I cut all of these pieces out. Okay, now you can use the blade tool or you can just use your range tool. You come over here, you swipe, and you hit, delete, and you get rid of all of that extra noise, all that extra bleed between all the hits. Now what that's going to do is that is going to clear up a lot of the mud in your mix. Now you may say, well, you know, if it's only on one track, it's not going to make that much of a difference. But the cumulative effect of this, let's say you have, this track has 2 toms. Let's say you have 3 toms, tom 1, tom 2, floor tom. Or a lot of songs I get the drummer has 4 toms. You multiply all of that times 4, the cumulative effect of all that racket going on between the hits is going to muddy up your mix tremendously. So what you do is you go through and you listen and you make sure that you don't get rid of the actual hits, like something like this. Oops. I want to make sure that I let the tom kind of ring out. Now you're going to hear the cymbal crash. That's okay. There's not much you can do about that. Just don't cut the tom out too short. Okay, you want to do that. You want to clean all that up. Now I'm not going to clean the whole thing because I want to keep this video somewhat short because I want to show you another track you want to pay attention to. But once you get all of these toms cleaned and you have a bunch of little cuts like this, you may say, well, you have all those little slices of audio. Those can inadvertently be moved and nudged out of place when you're not even realizing. So there's a couple of things that you can do. The easiest thing to do is I highlight them all and I bounce them in place. And now it's one block of audio. And if I were to do this between these two, it's one block of audio. Okay. Now I could do Command Z, Command undo this. The other thing you can do, every DAW has this, I believe, every feature, is you could go through and you can lock the events, right? So you can right click on an event and let me see, toggle time lock. So you'll see in Studio One, it gives you a little clock up here in the bottom left-hand corner of the event. That'll allow you to still do fade-ins and fade-outs, but it won't allow you to move it. See, I'm trying to drag it out of place so you can't inadvertently nudge it out of place. And then you can toggle it off and now you can move it wherever you want. Let's bring that back, Command Z. Okay, but what I like to do is I just prefer to do this, Command B. Every DAW will do something very similar. So tom tracks, make sure you clean out your tom tracks. Use a gate or cut them out like I showed you. The other thing you can do, you can also use, and this will also help you too, even if you're going to use a program like, let's say, drum replacement software like Slate Trigger 2 or Addictive Drums, where you're going to replace the actual drums with samples. By cleaning up these hits, this will also keep that plugin from doing false triggering as well. Okay. Now, a lot of this will depend from track to track, how much bleed you have and such, but it's a good practice. But really, this is really to get rid of the muddiness. So 2 tom tracks. The other track I want you to pay attention to, especially in things like a live performance, is the vocal track, especially in a live performance where they're on stage and everything is bleeding into this. Now, here's one right here. Here's our lead vocal track. And I would do this with background vocals as well. But if you listen to the beginning of the song here, if I were to just solo up just the lead vocal mic, and look how loud it gets right coming up here. You can hear the whole band in it. Now, sometimes in a studio recording, you may just have headphone bleed coming in from the headphones into the vocal mic, especially if you're using open back headphones, which you shouldn't do when you record vocals. But in a live performance, you have no control over this. For a couple of reasons. One, the vocal mic's on stage, everything is bleeding into it. 2, during the performance, the singer's running around the stage, he or she is rocking out and he's pointing the microphone in all different directions to the crowd. You're going to get a ton of bleed. Same thing. You're going to want to go through and you'll want to try to, between the vocal phrases, get rid of all that noise. Now, during the vocal phrase, like in this first line, I'm coming to you, you can still hear bleed and there's nothing you can do about that. That's okay. Okay, now between the phrases, between the lines, depending on how the vocals are sang or sung, will depend on whether you're going to clean out every little nuance. You may not, depending on the song, you may not have that ability, but in a song like this, we can go through and we could cut out in between the lines. Now, the thing you want to be careful of, make sure little ad-libs, little breaths in between, that you don't cut those out. So you really got to go through and you have to listen to make sure that you're not choking off something unnecessarily. The other thing you can do is you can use a gate. Once again, you can use a gate plugin, but again, I'm not a big fan of gates. They sometimes work. It depends on the song. I would rather go through and clean it up myself. Same thing with background vocals, okay? So in this particular song, we have background vocal tracks where they only sing in the chorus. Well, all that stuff in the beginning is all bleed. So what I want to do now, just quickly to demonstrate what I say the accumulative effect. You may say, well, what does that mean? It means that if you have all the bleed or all this rumble going on in multiple tracks, how loud that can sound. So here's just the 3 vocal tracks of itself where there's, well, actually I want to do Command Z, bring back that lead vocal. Okay, so here are the 3 vocal tracks soloed by themselves before any singing takes place. Listen to how much noise is in the mix. And these things are not turned up. We're turned down below unity here. If I turn these up to unity gain, okay, those 3 tracks are getting in the way of the clarity, the punch, and the lack of, the clarity, lack of muddiness in all your instruments, right? If you have your whole band playing back, you don't want all that rumble going on, okay? So now if you were to take that a step further and say, what about, add the 2 tom tracks to that, right? Because you have the 2 tom tracks that are even worse than that. Let me bring back this tom track here that we worked on a second ago. Okay, now listen to it at the beginning. Now I got the 3 vocal tracks and the 2 tom tracks that he doesn't hit at all at the beginning of the song. Again, I'll turn everything up to unity. Okay. No tom track hit yet, but listen to all that racket. Finally a tom hit. Okay, so you get the idea. So depending on your recording, depending on how it was done, is it a studio recording, a live recording, I go through this process on every single mix. Clean out the tom tracks. If the tom wasn't hit, I want to get rid of all that stuff. Some people on drums will say, I've heard engineers say, well, I leave it in there because it adds vibe to the drum kit. Those are guys that are too lazy to clean it out or to do something with it because they don't want to take the time to go through it because it takes a lot of time. It could take 20 minutes to go through one track, depending on how busy he is on the toms. It doesn't add vibe to the drum kit. It adds a muddy drum track is what it does. It adds muddiness and things that you can't get rid of, and it adds clarity and punch to the drum kit when you're too lazy to take and get rid of it. Okay, so that is the tip this week. Clean your tracks, tom tracks, vocal tracks, or really any track where they're not playing, like in the horn section here in this live recording. We have a lot of bleed going on between the horn segments. Clean all that stuff out. There are going to be certain areas like guitar tracks and stuff where it's too busy and you're going to have some bleeding. You got to leave that alone. It's totally okay. But where you can clean them out, because you're gonna find your mix is gonna have so much more clarity to it, and you won't get that muddiness that you get, that low mid-range muddiness. This will help you tremendously. So I want to thank you for watching this week's Mix Tip Tuesday. Now, as I said at the beginning of the video, and I say it every week, I have some gifts for you. This may be your first time here. If it is your first time here, welcome to the family. I want you to go to homerecordingmadeeasy.com, and I want to give you 5 free mixing training courses so you can take all these Mix Tip Tuesday little golden nuggets and you can apply them to real world applications today. 5 free courses. It's right on the homepage at homerecordingmadeeasy.com. Get your 5 courses today. Now, if you're someone who's already done that and you're a regular viewer of my channel, welcome back and thank you. And you may be saying, well, I already have those gifts, Dave. What are you going to do for me, man? All right. I'm going to do something for you. I want to give you, as well as the new people, a coupon code. It's coming up on your screen right now. YouTube 25. That takes 25% off any training course on my website. Any one. Do you have every course that I have on the website? No? You should. Recording, mixing, mastering, tons of mixing training. You should have it. Go there today, pick up some stuff in your cart that you don't already have that you want to learn about. Take 25% off YouTube 25. Now, lastly, if you really enjoy mixing and you love learning about plugins and you want your mixes to sound professional coming out of your home studio, so you can put your music on your website so people can check out your band. You want to start mixing for clients. You want to make some extra money. You know, would you like to make $300, $400, $500 to mix a client song? Yeah, you can. How about mixing one of those a week, making a couple of $1,000 a month or $1,000 a month or $500 a month, just mixing other people's music? You can do that, but you got to be good at the craft of mixing. You got to be able to turn out professional sounding stuff. Home Recording Made Easy will help you, but I got something even better for people like you. For folks that really want to learn mixing in a very non-technical way, go to mixingmadeeasy.net. Check out our monthly mixing membership website. It'll cost you less than 50 cents a day. And for a limited time, if you click the link in the description box, I want to give you 40% off our annual membership. So now it's less than 40 cents a day. You'll get a new song every month. Go to mixingmadeeasy.net. There's a video there. I explain the entire membership, all the different freebies you get. It's the best mixing training that you'll buy, bar none, anywhere, guaranteed. Why? Well, I'm biased. I say so. No, we got hundreds of members. They love being there. We have a mixing contest every month. We have private one-on-one coaching where you can get some extra help from me for free of charge. It's all part of your membership, and I want to give it to you at 40% off. Click the link in the description box below. Go to mixingmadeeasy.net. Now, last but certainly not least, I want to hear from you. What other mixing tips that you have that I haven't shown you in this week's video? Do you have any other things, anything to comment, anything that you do to kind of enhance what I just showed you this week? What are the little golden nuggets and things that are maybe not so obvious that you do to help you get a better mix? Or do you have any questions about what I showed you? Either way, leave comments below. Let me know what's on your mind so I can continue to help you make better mixes in your home studio. And until next week, I've been Dave with HomeRecordingMadeEasy.com, MixingMadeEasy.net, and I will see you next week. Thanks so much for watching and take care.